Greetings, fellow moviegoers, and welcome to Movie Central, the place to talk about movies, TV shows based on movies, toys based on movies, games based on movies, and rides based on movies. I'm your host, Mr. CCS, and this is my pet gorilla, George. Welcome to Shadows of the Bat, a 4-part retrospective on Batman the Animated Series. Today, we're going to take a look at the shorter, yet still good, second season. But before we dive in, let's recap for those of you who didn't watch the last video. If you guys thought that the first season of Batman did well, you would be making the understatement of the century. The show was critically acclaimed, with episodes even getting nominated for Emmys. Yes, Emmys! The award that Game of Thrones won way too many times for Best Show. But that's beyond the point. Batman was clearly a top dog for WB. So, more seasons had to be created, and they would continue to be as cool as the first season. My thoughts? Well, this one is a lot harder to write, so I'm just going to be doing my best to describe a 10-episode season. Yes, you heard me right. This is Batman the Animated Series Season 2. Much like the first season, there isn't much of a plot for this one. Simply put, it showcases Batman being Batman and taking out certain thugs and criminals. Much like the first season, there isn't much of a plot. There's not much to say here, considering the fact that there isn't much of a season to go around here. 10 episodes in total. I can only really give my honest thoughts on new characters introduced, as well as the characters that got developed in this season. So, with that said, let's get into it. Batman and Robin are just as good as they were in the first season. Robin does make more frequent appearances here, which is a good thing, because I love watching him in this show. But there is a new character that I love in this season so much that I would actively go as far to say this should be the template of how you do the character, and that character is Batgirl, voiced by Melissa Gilbert. Now, Batgirl wasn't that good of a character in the comics at the time. She was invented in the comics just to introduce her character to the 60s TV show. And you know how I feel about that show, so don't ask me about it. However, as time went on, Batgirl became a much more respected character that fans and audiences alike can enjoy. Now, I know her live-action track record hasn't been phenomenal or good. Considering her appearance in Batman and Robin, where she was played by Alicia Silverstone and was nothing like the character she was supposed to be, because she had little to nothing to do, and her movie recently getting canceled, but in animation, she is phenomenal. This particular version is my favorite adaptation of Batgirl, by far. She was set up throughout the season prior, as Jim Gordon's daughter from college, but eventually took on the Batgirl role in the premiere two-parter, Shadow of the Bat, one of the best episodes this season. From there, she joined the dynamic duo, took out Two-Face and Gil Mason, and becoming the Batgirl we all know and love. Seriously, this is not only my favorite version of Batgirl, one of my favorite characters in this season. Now, as far as characters from the previous season go, I love seeing the Mad Hatter again, as Roddy McDowall gives his performance an all, as well as Poison Ivy, Harley Quinn, and the Joker. But there is a villain that did appear in the last season, sort of, that really has a full fleshed out appearance here, and that villain is Killer Croc. Now, I do love Killer Croc in the comics, animated films, and some games. But in this show, they didn't really pull him off. They got close, but not good enough. The voice of Aaron Kincaid is fine, but I hate the visual design. He's a crocodile. He shouldn't be gray. He should be green and scaly and evil looking. Thankfully, they did fix him in the 4th season, and the character doesn't show up too much. So I don't hate the design too much, but it is not my favorite. Not a huge problem with the show or any season. Just a nitpick. Alright, those are the only characters that this season really fleshed out. Let's talk about the animation again. Well, not to sound like a broken record, but it is still incredible. and some of the best 2D animation I have ever seen. Check out the first part of the retrospective to learn more. Hashtag shameless plug. The music, I don't need to discuss either, because again, all you need to do here is watch my previous video and listen to the points I've made before. It is treated as if it were a movie on the big screen and not an animated show. Alright, here comes the highlights of the season. This is a little easier because these were the absolutely perfect episodes to go with. Shadow of the Bat. Batgirl's definitive origin story and a great 2-part episode. This should be Batgirl's movie. Watch it. Trial, easily the most unique and best episode in this season. A ton of Batman rogues gathering to judge whether Batman should be a criminal. You get the likes of Mad Hatter, the Riddler, Scarecrow, Two-Face, and a few others. The Joker as the judge in this one is easily one of the highlights. The Worry Man. Another great Mad Hatter episode, just not as good as the ones from the first season. My personal favorite part is seeing the Mad Hatter's duplicates of the Batman villains. And the highlight that I think is the most well known come from Roddy McDowall as Mad Hatter. Once again, he pulled it off spectacularly. House and Garden. Poison Ivy's reform episode that becomes surprisingly dark and weird at the end. If you didn't like Poison Ivy in the live action films, this one will give you a new appreciation for the character. Check it out. And finally, Harlequinade. One of Harley's finest outings, just behind Harley and Ivy for me. I mean, for Christ's sake, why is Harley not this crazy in the movies? If you ever see a scene of Batman snapping at Harley in the Batmobile, then check this episode out. Alright, season 2 wasn't too perfect. It was very short and didn't really have that much in it. But it was definitely a somewhat worthy successor to the first season, just not as good as it. I mean, a lot of the episodes are good, but it was just too short in my eyes. I give the second season a 9 out of 10. Well, that's it for this part of the retrospective. I know it was shorter, but it's because this season was frighteningly short. Tune in next week when I take a look at the third season, The Adventures of Batman and Robin. Don't worry, this episode will not be short. With that said, my name is Mr. CCS, this is Movie Central, and that, my friends, is a wrap. See you next week.